Roger. Arlen, sir. Good morning. Good morning. In less than an hour, aircraft from here will join others from around the world. And you will be launching the largest aerial battle in the history of mankind. Mankind, that word should have new meaning for all of us today. We can't be consumed by our petty differences anymore. We will be united in our common interest. Perhaps it's fate that today is the 4th of July, and you will once again be fighting for our freedom. Not from tyranny, oppression, or persecution, but from annihilation. We're fighting for our right to live, to exist. And should we win the day, the 4th of July will no longer be known as an American holiday, but as the day when the world declared in one voice, we will not go quietly into the night. We will not vanish without a fight. We're going to live on. We're going to survive. Today, we celebrate our Independence Day.
All right. Good evening, folks, and thanks for joining. I guess this would be the first official episode of the Traditionalist on the Edge, a new show that we are going to try to do every Thursday. And tonight we're going to be talking about aliens. And there's so much to talk about that I'll get into it in just a minute. First, we want to start with a couple of announcements. And first thing to let you know real quick is that this is the last simulcast that we will be doing with Catholic Family Podcast. Certainly the content, it kind of drifts away from what we like to do on Catholic Family Podcast. So we're going to be only going exclusively on the Traditionalist from here on forward. So if you have not already signed up and gotten notification, hit that notification bell and subscribe to the Traditionalist, please do it. And that way you can be notified when we get started on a new episode. And then second is what we want to do with
these. Hold up. There's a really bad echo going on, I guess.
Oh, shoot.
Lots of echo. Shoot, because we had tested this. All right.
Our microphones are getting stage fright.
Okay, hold on. I think I'm going to relocate then.
Okay, hang on.
This is just very.
This is yeah. So typical. That we tested this all last night. We went live, and we had no echo at all.
I'm heading off here for a sec.
Someone's saying no echo. Is it better? Maybe is it because we added a third person?
I don't think so.
Is it just the microphones?
Yeah, sorry guys. Dominic's going to try to move here. I think. Let me ask out there. Are we?
Says Dominic doesn't have an echo. Dad and William do. Well, Dominic's relocating.
Dominic's going to relocate. Are we still echoing? Give me yes or no.
Two windows open on same live.
You don't have? Do you have? Do you have Restream open on? Twice?
Don't believe so. I don't know. There's so many tabs.
Okay,
on
just a minute, guys.
Settings. Nope, I'm only open on the Chrome.
Okay, I think William must be picking mine up. Yeah.
Maybe William, you trade. William, can you relocate
to the library? To the library? Okay.
Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and get started here, and I think William's going to relocate you. We should be once William goes out, we should echo free here. Apologies, guys. We worked on this last night. You hear echo on mine. Let me try something here. Okay, is this better? Of course, I should not echo what I'm saying. Okay, yeah. What I did, I just went off. We got a really nice new microphones, courtesy of. Okay, I think we're good now. Yeah. Okay.
Are we still good?
We got such a cool show planned, so I appreciate everybody hanging in for a couple minutes worth of technical issues. Ubiquitous. We tested this last night.
There we go. Okay, and
we had a full test, and it was great. But anyways, okay, so what we're going to do is we wanted to kind of start out tonight with a little bit of a news digest before we get into the discussion of the aliens. So we wanted to talk about
Table, probably.
kind of current news events, and I will see if William was going to go first, but he's resetting himself and seeing if he can get set up in our library. So I think what I'm going to do is let Dominic, who is currently in the halls of Congress.
Coming live to you. Granted, terrible camera quality. CNN had to use their backup cameras, so it's a mess over here. But what is not a mess is that the Pete Hegseth and Pam Bondi's they're not swearing in, but they're what's that called? They had hearings before Congress and just killed it, knocked out of the park. And it was pretty fun to watch. I think it's lost connection. Anybody?
Yeah, that's what they're.
Man. Okay. Okay. How about now? Yeah, this is possibly a failed podcast here. We have to completely reset. This is just. Let's try that. Is that better? Echo from both speakers. I'm echoing really badly.
Okay, let me try turning off.
So I'm just Yeah. So I'm going through echo. That might have been me, because I think you make sure that your input is on.
Yeah.
Okay. I think that was my issue.
I just muted myself. So.
All right. I think we're kind of good for a minute. So basically, what I was saying is that the Trump's cabinet picks that have started going through Congress for hearings have just been absolutely killing it, throwing down all sorts of just killing the lefts, especially a couple of the California senators talking with Pam Bondi. A thing to watch. If you have not watched it, then you should try to take some of the clips from it, because it's fun to see the good guys winning, kind of. So that's kind of what my little blurb to start this for newscasting was going to be.
Unmute. Let's see if this works. All right, and I'll go ahead and do mine. Hopefully this is not too bad. Great, expensive new camera, expensive new microphone, and just having all kinds of trouble. But my quick win for this week is the news story is Donald Trump earlier this week announced that he's going to form the External Revenue Service, which is an amazing thing. So basically, I think he's moving towards trying to fund the government with trade. And so you got trade imbalances, you got things, tariffs and all that kind of stuff. And I think he wants to get rid of the IRS, get rid of the income tax, and basically get rid of the Federal Reserve. I think that that's part of his agenda. And this move towards the external revenue service is going to be part of it. So I think that's going to be that's a spectacular step forward for this election cycle, and I think we got a lot coming up for January 20th. Okay, so now let's get into the topic of the day, and I got to keep the chat on here and see. It sounds like we're doing a little bit better here, and we'll hopefully get some of these glitches turned. I think what we'll try to do is we'll just try to go on mute when we're not talking. But aliens, I wanted to go first and give a little bit of a TL, because we're going to probably be at this for a couple of hours tonight if our tech holds out. And I think that the too long don't watch the TLDR, TLDW of the aliens discussion is that basically, I think within the next few days, possibly, certainly 2025, very, very soon, we have disclosure coming that is going to be a massive, massive deception. And it's something that I think the elites have been working on for 100 years to prepare us for. And the important thing that I want to point out here is that the narrative that I think is going to come out of this disclosure is going to challenge our belief in Christ. And that's what it's intended to do. It's intended to cause us to lose our faith and start thinking in a little bit of a Star Wars, Star Trek, life on other planets type of a mindset. So I'll just leave it at that, and we'll get into some details and get the discussion going. But Dominic, do you have any first thoughts here? Oh, you're out. Just a second. Let me bring Dominic up.
And I'm back, and this time from Area 51. So my thoughts on the whole thing, I think, pretty much mirrors the what's the guy's face that Fox. He was a Fox guy for a bit, and then good grief. Wow, having a serious brain fart. But the talking point out there that I think is pretty legitimate is that the stuff that we're starting to see, especially the orbs and the unexplainable, is partially hidden tech and also partially demonic. I think that's a big part of, in my opinion, a big part of the UFO alien conspiracy is that, Tucker, thank you. Yeah, Tucker Carlson had a great point. And he's basically saying that, this is otherworldly, it's extraterrestrial in theory, but it's actually demonic. It is a straight demonic force that is, running amok, and how that is manifesting into physical reality is a good question. But that's my personal belief that you have some advanced tech, some, Area 51 type advanced tech, or even demonic based tech, that you have a lot of kind of conspiracies out there that say that your your tech that's out there that is something that we can't understand, and even going back into like the founding of electricity, that there might have been some whispering from certain otherworldly entities that were a part of finding and founding this technology. So that's kind of my just base theory on aliens and UFOs. Kind of curious what William,
yeah, you want to give us your initial thoughts?
Well, my thoughts are, I don't know, I aliens are really not so much my wheelhouse, as it were. If we talk, ancient aliens, historical aliens, and hey, I'm all for it. But my basic thoughts, kind of, as a more outside looking in, is that about 80% of all claims of aliens are just hoaxes, just fakes. People with, overactive imaginations or trying to get clout. And 15 of the remaining 20% are U.S. or international tech, spyware, drones. You have some drone shows that are kind of taking the place of fireworks in some places, but these drones are spectacular and mind-boggling in the things that they can do, and the kind of the images that they can construct with with tons and tons of drones. So I think it's very easy that 90% of all actual documented alien or UFO cases are super or drones or spyware. You have spy planes and things like that, and then the other remaining percent, I believe, is demonic activity. I mean, I'd agree with Tucker Carlson there, is that it's the devil trying to lead people away from God, trying to deconstruct and distract, as is his grand purpose. I mean, I have somewhat similar thoughts on Bigfoot, but that's just kind of my hot take on that.
Okay. Bigfoot is absolutely real. Absolutely real.
I'll fight you on that one.
A real demon. Yeah, no, I actually spent a lot of time in Bigfoot country in Northern California, and I heard enough, enough stories from people who actually had seen Bigfoot that it was. I mean, there was something there physically, but I think it was also something from the spiritual realm. So, what we wanted to do, I think, here is talk about a little bit of a history. In my opinion, the Hollywood government, the elitists, the Freemasons, whatever you want to call them, okay, you can call them the bad guys, I suppose, have been kind of prepping us for this event for the better part of 100 years, and there was a fascination with aliens that came. I think if the first one that came through Hollywood was Orson Welles and the World of Worlds. I forget the year on that. I meant to look that up tonight, but I forget what year. Maybe somebody puts it in the chat. 1939, I think, maybe.
I think, yeah, like 1937 or mid 1930s, I believe, if memory serves.
Yeah, and if anybody's not familiar with that one, that was basically it was a radio broadcast. I think it took place in New Jersey, if I'm not mistaken. It was a radio broadcast that was basically simulated a real attack by aliens, and it backfired on them because people actually panicked and thought that we were under attack from aliens, and it caused a big stink for I think it was ABC or whoever put it out. But and for Orson Welles as well, and they had to apologize and all that. But that kind of got the ball rolling, I think, on the alien world. And for the first number of years, I think that the aliens, for the most part, were all bad. I think that they're a threat to humanity. I think they probably threw us out of what we knew, what we expected. They were something that we didn't go for. I got to show you a quick clip here. This was one of the second times it came through in the 50s. You had a show called The Twilight Zone. The Twilight Zone is actually kind of terrible, but it had some fun premises. But anyways, there was an episode, a famous episode where aliens came down. They were friendly. They were as nice as could be. And they had a book called To Serve Man that people found. And there was no, that nobody could figure it out because all in a foreign language and all. And, what they would do is they would take and offer people all these really cool stuff, and they would take them off the ship and take them away. And everybody thought they were kind of going to paradise and whatever, until some smart person right at the very end of the episode found out the key. And
Mr. Chambers. Mr. Chambers, don't get on that ship. The rest of the book, To Serve Man, it's a cookbook.
Mr. Chambers, it's a cookbook.
It's a cookbook. It's a cookbook. So yeah, I mean, that's actually kind of gotten into pop culture. If you've ever heard that line, it's a cookbook. It's a cookbook. That's literally where it came from. So that was another Hollywoodizing of aliens. And then I think towards the 70s and 80s, when things got really loopy culturally, we basically, the aliens kind of became the good guys, right? So you had E.T., the extraterrestrial, and he was about as friendly as he was just trying to get home, and he was as friendly as could be. And then you had Close Encounters of the Third Kind, and kind of a similar type of a thing there. And then I think it got even kind of goofier from there, because you had Men in Black, where the aliens were just from all over, and they were just really, really weird and kind of enculturated into society. And then as we've gone forward, they've kind of gone back to being the bad guys again to a large degree. You had Aliens, you had Independence Day that we showed in the opening here, and quite a number of other movies where the aliens have been the bad guy. But anyways, Hollywood now for 100 years has been basically, I think, prepping us for this moment where we're going to have a disclosure in terms of what are these things, right? And I want to play you a clip from a guy who I keep coming across here, and tell me if the guy's a fraud or whatever. His name's Stephen Greer. He's the one talking about having, that there. He actually said that there's supposed to be a big thing over the weekend, more or less. But I wanted to show, I thought he really kind of nailed what I think the agenda is here. I want to go ahead and show this video that's just came out.
Right. Well, here, the biggest part of this story isn't the extraterrestrial part of it, ironically. That's secondary. And in fact, people who have been in these covert programs that are very disinformation oriented have wanted the public to believe we're not alone, but that there's a threat from outer space. And most of you who are familiar with my work know what Werner von Braun, through his spokesperson for the last 5 years of his life, Carol Rosin, said when he was dying, and in 1974 said the whole purpose of these covert programs, one of the big overarching purposes, is to be able to hoax a attack or an alien threat and present the extraterrestrial presence as a threat so that they could consolidate military power, industrial power, and also pivot the population through fear into realizing there's another enemy to fight. Now, when you're doing that, it's a long-term psychological warfare operation, a PSYOP. And the best way to do that is once they figured out and reverse engineered the extraterrestrial vehicles, the NHI craft, as they're calling them now, non-human intelligence craft. Those then began to be deployed in the late 1950s into operational craft that look like a UFO.
Okay, now that's kind of interesting, the standpoint that there's that these are extraterrestrial, they're non-human. I forget the NHI, non-human
intelligence,
non-human intelligence, right? That is creating this stuff. And so, I mean, we don't necessarily agree there, but to say that this is all an operation that is designed to increase power for government, yeah, I'm on board with that. I think that seems like it's the most obvious probable cause of what's going on here, is that this is a cause to increase power for government and scare the people. And now that, go ahead, William.
As it's like the false flag to end false flags. I mean, it's things that some people say 9/11 was. Not here to confirm nor deny that, but false flag, an operation by the government to seize power from the people through scare tactics, essentially.
Yeah, and there's another one out there, a conspiracy theory it's Project Bluebeam. I'm not sure if everyone's heard of that one, but it's I'll literally read the Wikipedia what it says it is. It's a conspiracy theory which posits a plot to facilitate a totalitarian world government by destroying Abrahamic religions and replacing them with a new age belief system using futuristic NASA technology and involving a faked alien invasion or extraterrestrial encounter. Like, that is pretty spot on with kind of the theory that we're going with on the false flag of you have this new regime that's coming in that's bringing in a whole bunch of very traditional values, and the bad guys, or whoever you might say, the cabal, the evil in the world, has to try to stop that in some way. And this very well could be it. And it very well could happen before the inauguration of Trump on the 20th. So you might possibly see, and this is kind of goes back to something I had mentioned in the last podcast of the different predictions. And one of mine was that you're going to have a massive alien disclosure that says that all of this stuff is, it's the truth, and aliens are real, and they've been among us for the last 80,000 years, and oh, by the way, Christianity does not work with this position. I think that goes back to what you're saying, Dad, is that you have a massive red flag type scenario that directly impacts our belief system and directly impacts how we, at least in the world's eyes, going back to especially your evolution talking points, go back to that and say, oh yeah, well, evolution is real, and oh, by the way, we came from aliens who seeded our planet. And the whole
Christian narrative is out the window, the Adam and Eve narrative is out the window, and it's. Let me show you something real quick here. Oh, go ahead. Did you want to say something, William?
I was just going to say that if, to have a one world order, you need a one world religion. And as long as all of the currently existing religions exist, there will be no one world religion. And this new age, the new age religion of, worshiping the aliens, or, that will be ushered in by these disclosures, will be most definitely the founding of a, new world religion to go with the new world order.
Right.
Exactly what Project Bluebeam posits, that it is the start of a new world religion.
Now, let me show you something here. I'm going to show you a quick video that I think I want to say this is Singapore. It's kind of short, but this is 5G. This is technology that has become possible with 5G. I mean, holy cow! These are literally people seeing whales flying in the, and they look so realistic. I mean, you look like you reach out and touch them, and so I think that that's really where this technology is headed.
Well, yeah, you definitely have patented technology that uses lasers essentially to create holograms. So it's totally space age in our mind. You know, you go to Star Wars holograms, like, oh, there's no way that could ever happen. But there is patented technology out there. Whether it's actually, usable is another question. There's a lot of patented technologies out there for like free point energy that a patent's a patent. It doesn't necessarily mean it works. But what we're seeing above the skies and these UFOs, especially like the globe, the spinning UFO, spheres, could very, very well be just holographic technology that they are seeding our consciousness, or seeding mainstream media with the possibility that it could happen before they come out and do bam, in Washington D.C. on the 20th, you have this massive alien ship hover over the White House and shoot a beam down and kill everybody. It's like, it could happen, but I think that the past and how they've conditioned us to think of this stuff allows for that outcome to come about.
Yeah, and this goes back. I mean, they've been preparing us for this for so long. I remember I heard a story, and I don't know if it's true or not. It's just kind of, maybe it's sort of a legend, but Hillary Clinton lost the 2016 election, of course, and I think for her, she felt like it was the end of the world, and she literally turned to one of her aides and says, "It's time to unleash the aliens." And so I think that the powers that be have known about this for a long time, and I want to go ahead and show. Another quick video that goes back a ways to show the technology that the government and NASA at least think are out there, and this is fairly old, I think.
Bob Lazar's claims about UFOs, alien technology, and secret government programs continue to spark heated debates. Whether you believe his story or not, the questions he raised about the possibilities of extraterrestrial life and advanced technologies have kept people fascinated and scared for decades. The UFOs at S4. Bob Lazar's most famous claim centers around the existence of 9 alien spacecraft hidden at a secretive base near Area 51. It's called S4. Now, Lazar stated that these UFOs were unlike anything that we've ever seen. According to him, these ships were shaped like discs with a highly advanced propulsion system that defied the laws of physics. How fun is that? The UFOs didn't use traditional engines or wings. Instead, they had a device that manipulated gravity, allowing them to float, hover, and zip around at unimaginable speeds. Yeah, they can control gravity. That's kind of not fair. Lazar even claimed that he got to work up close with one of these crafts, where he witnessed firsthand how it could move in ways that no human-made craft could, essentially appearing to break all known laws of physics. Element 115. One of the most significant claims Lazar made was about a mysterious element called Element 115. Now, when Lazar spoke about it in the late 1980s, Element 115 had not yet been discovered. Yeah, spoiler alerts, Lazar. He claimed that it was used as a power source for these UFOs. Now, according to Lazar, when Element 115 was exposed to radiation, it generated a gravity field strong enough to power the spacecraft, allowing them to float and travel at speed.
So I think I might want to take the history lesson here back a couple hundred, if not 1,000 years.
Yeah.
That you have throughout all of history, almost all of history, ancient civilizations. I think you're ancient civilizations that have universally some sort of extraterrestrial or something coming from above in a spaceship or whatever, and coming down and ruling, like you go, or depositing technologies. And you go back to especially the ancient Egyptians and the whole aliens building the pyramids kind of has a little bit of it kind of makes sense. Like you look into the actual physical how they could have built this thing, and at the time they did not have the technology that we attribute to them having. But my theory on this is that you had before Noah kind of a breakaway civilization. So you take our world from 1912, or I could call it 1890 until 1990, and the crazy just boom of technologies is wild. And you have to understand that humanity has not gotten smarter. We have currently we have more access to information than maybe you had 1,000 years ago, 2,000 years ago. But the brilliance of humanity has always been with humanity. It's not something. It's like we. Not, I shouldn't say we. I think the general understanding amongst probably the people that are going to be watching this is that yes, we are maybe not as brilliant as our forefathers, like the people who created and built the great monasteries and great cathedrals, but the general consensus amongst your mainstream media is that you had the Stone Age and the Neanderthals and the Dark Ages, and there's this total base intelligence that humanity had, and then all of a sudden into the Enlightenment period of the 1600s, the 1700s, that everything just exploded and humanity got brilliant. And I seriously don't think that that's the case. You go back to the time of Noah, and God destroyed all of humanity basically, besides for a very select few. And there's always a question of why did he do that? And some people throw out there as like, okay, that's because humanity at the time was messing around with God's the DNA, God's greatest creation of his people, made in the image and likeness of God. And at the time, the people then basically we're like, oh yeah, well we're going to start changing DNA. We're going to invent something that's going to create men as far superior and make them giants. And like you have a significant amount of archaeological evidence that has kind of been you can't say it's necessarily 100% true, because it's been covered up, especially the Washington D.C.'s museum. What are they?
Smithsonian.
Smithsonian. So Smithsonian has big piece in covering up these things. And there's like Ohio. I think Ohio has or had something like 80 acres worth of burial sites that had theoretical giants in them, like this picture shows. You've got to question if it's AI or whatever that picture was, but there's enough evidence out there that shows people being giants, and it's biblical. You have the men of renown, and I think the word that's thrown out a lot these days by your deists and kind of posing biblical scientists, whatever you might call them, throw out the name of the Nephilim an awful lot. So but kind of going back to the whole aliens idea, that I think that before this is my opinion, that before you had Moses, or not Moses, Noah, before Noah took humanity in its pure form back to God's creation and multiplied into what we have today, that there was a breakaway civilization that maybe over a period of 100 years, 1,000 years, 2,000 years, whatever, had built up a civilization that had a lot of advanced technology and a lot of maybe spacecraft, maybe anti-gravity. And anti-gravity kind of explains the whole, these crazy structures, the pyramids, that we could not build today, and we think we're far superior. But my opinion on what some of this could be, and going back to the government's usage of these technologies, that they didn't necessarily invent them, but they found pieces of craft or pieces of technology that they reverse engineered. And there's plenty of whistleblowers out there that would attest to that theory. And that's kind of another piece to the older side of the alien history. that hey, anyone that's ever watched the History Channel, after about 10 o'clock, it's all ancient aliens, and it's all, there's a huge thing that's on the History Channel. And you kind of wonder, say, okay, why did they put that on the History Channel? And it's kind of it's fun stuff to ponder, but I think there might honestly be some truth to the ancient aliens being your advanced civilization before the time of Noah.
Yeah, and I think for us, the easy way to look at things is to basically look at things as linear. I mean, your evolutionists, right, like to believe that we started out as an amoeba or a walking frog or whatever we were, and then have kind of slowly built to where we are now. And so men were 4 foot tall, and they're 5 foot tall, and they're 5.5 foot tall, and we've grown through evolution, right? Well, I think that as Christians, we tend to want to take a little bit of a sterile view of that as well, and say Adam and Eve, they were about like us, or depicted in art as being our size and our shape and everything like that. And we do have the discussion of the men of renown, and I wanted to talk about that real quick because I pulled it down, and if you're looking to the Bible to kind of understand any of this, there's not a whole lot there. I think starting in let's just start at number one here. And after that, men began to multiply on the earth, and daughters were born to them. The sons of God, seeing the daughters of men that they were fair, took themselves wives of all which they chose. And God said, my spirit will not remain in man forever, because he is flesh, his days shall be 120 years. Now giants were upon the earth in those days, for after the sons of God went into the daughters of men, they brought forth children. They are the mighty men of old, men of renown. Okay, now son of God, it's interesting. The Dewey Rames calls the sons of God the descendants of Seth and Enos. And basically they were, I think that they were, they were carnal. But in my mind, I think it's relatively reasonable. I don't think it's un-Catholic to believe that it was actually demons. The sons of God were demons, and the daughters of men were women, and that's basically where our DNA got corrupted, and also where where the men of renown came from, that we saw the pictures of. And so I think it is definitely true that our history, when you look at the pyramids, you look at all over the world, you look at the Sphinx, you look at all these incredible achievements from all over the world that still today are beyond what we can imagine. I mean, we're just starting now to figure out that the pyramids be used to basically transmit energy. They're not just decoration. We're not funeral pyres, they actually could have very much served a purpose. And what societies, what pre-flood societies, what pre-flood technologies out there might be a lot more than we can imagine.
Well, that totally falls into the hold on, I got to respond to one of these chats real quick. That Matt W says there is zero reason to believe in some super advanced pre-flood civilization, honestly. Okay, let me respond to that. Matt, you have no idea what you're talking about. This stuff is real. Aliens are real. No,
they're turning the frogs gay.
They're turning the frogs gay. But I totally agree with that sentiment, but I think it's not wise to completely close our minds to the possibility of that maybe being the case. Like Dad had just said, with the pyramids being a source of energy, you overlay the pyramids of Gaza, and it directly lines up with Giza, sorry. Yeah, it directly lines up with a supercomputer chip. Literally, like piece to piece, dimension by dimension. It is a conductor. Sorry, William, you were going to say something?
Well, no, I was just about I mean, monuments throughout history have always existed, and I think there's very often when you get into a certain conversation, you will find any kind of correlation that you can possibly find and say, oh, there's the missing link. This is the proof. I've heard the about the pyramids, lining up, and how they're an energy, an energy conductor, and how they perfectly match up with the pyramids in the Mayan cultures. However, I believe that a more Occam's razor approach maybe would be that monuments. Because especially going to specifically the pyramids in Giza, they were built one after the other. And they weren't the pyramids of Egypt were all built hundreds or thousands of years apart as monuments to speak of the great accomplishments of the reigning pharaoh. You have the famous the ziggurats in Babylonia, which are also kind of pyramid shaped, that were built to symbolize the triumphs of a king or of an emperor. And I think that, in my opinion, that's most definitely what the most likely case for the pyramids of Giza and also the Mayan temples is that they were either, of high religious purpose like the Mayan temples, or they were monuments of a great reign like Giza. I don't remember the pharaoh who built the pyramids of Giza, but he in the surrounding area, I think he etched his name very prominently in the surrounding areas. I built this. This was me. This is from my reign. This is because I did this and this, and I'm great. I don't see any contemporary evidence that would indicate that these were supposed to be for energy. I'm not completely discounting it, but I believe that a more definitely more likely would be that these were just merely monuments, and that it can be because of the anomaly that they are built the way they are, and that this means something now relating to like 0-point energy. I think that might be more of a find a correlation, trying to find any kind of meaning where there just might not have been, but not to just completely discount it though.
Yeah, no, I agree with you there, and I think that really for me the bottom line on all this is that, and I've seen a couple of comments. I'm switching back and forth between comments and our video clips and stuff, so I apologize if we're not getting to all the comments. But I think what I really see is we have to, I think, remain skeptical about what we're seeing for certain, because there's we kind of showing you there's hoaxes, there is CGI, basically you got the 5G, you've got actual advanced technologies. We really haven't even gone into the Tesla rabbit hole tonight yet, and there's quite a bit of meat there. But what's going to be incredibly important is to remember that our core tenets of faith are true, they remain true, and we can't let any distraction that's out there talk us out of the fall of man, the redemption by Christ, the core tenets of our faith.
Well, I think that's what you're absolutely going to see in the next little bit. That, like,
yeah,
kind of the very, very first thing we talked about was that there is possibly likely something coming that is going to be a test to our faith. And like it is fun. I love talking about aliens. It's a fun pastime. I don't know exactly if I believe. I definitely don't believe in little green men. But as soon as any of those arguments or talking points cross the boundary of something that is of faith and morals, you have to say no. You absolutely cannot take that as anything, even remotely possible. But I think that there is a decent amount of argument, like kind of like what I was talking about with back in the times of Noah, that you can make arguments that are very biblically accurate and do not break from Catholic tradition. So it's a nuanced sort of talking point, but you have to always go back to it. Does this contradict the Catholic faith? Does this contradict my essential beliefs? Is it fun to talk about? Sure. It's fun to, throw out all the different Alex Jones like predictions, but you can't do it at the expense of your faith.
Right. Yeah. And for me, I think one of the things that I see as I'm just kind of, you start doing a little bit of background research, and then all of a sudden your X feed is flooded with all this kind of stuff. And so I'm seeing all kinds of weird videos and stuff. And I think the one that's kind of, it's always been the most disconcerting to me. And I do think that it's going to come up here in the coming days, is the idea there's this idea of a galactic federation out there. It's almost like Star Wars. Okay. Although I forget there's somebody out there who says that there's 11 different breeds of aliens that are all descending on the earth now. And I think 9 of them are friendly and 2 of them are unfriendly. And what they're doing is they're monitoring us, and they're waiting until we get to a certain degree of spiritual enlightenment. And once we get there, then they're going to invite us into the Galactic Federation, right? And I can't say that that's the way this whole thing is going to play out, but that one I see references to that, and it just gives me tingles from the standpoint of like, that would convince a lot of people, I think, that that the Christian story is false, and that, come with us, come to the Galactic Federation. We have cookies. We're that's just a better way to go about your life. And wow, look at all the aliens. It's so real,
Well,
and to
totally
deceive,
plays
if possible, even the elect.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Totally.
exactly. Well, that's why I called this. That's why I called this show the Grand Deception. And now it doesn't. I was looking at this a little bit earlier. You look at I think it's Matthew 25, where we talk about he talks about the prior to the coming of Christ, and I think the real deception has more to do with finding Christ in here and in the closets, and in here and there, and so I think looking for false Christs is but I mean, you could kind of make the case that the aliens represent a sort of false Christ, because they're going to be this this hyper intelligent, way more sophisticated and technologically advanced from us.
Well, it's you'll see false prophets.
Yeah, it totally plays into the egomaniacal just trend that our whole society has gone towards. Like, we are so enlightened because we have 15 genders, and we are. It's kind of the exact opposite of the talking point is that the humanity has come to this enlightened state of spirituality, when it's actually no. Humanity has gone in a very steady downhill dirge of just base immorality. And when you come and say, no, your immorality is actually the enlightenment, and that's kind of what the woke agenda has been pushing on us for the last 30 years, 40 years, but especially in the last about 5 to 10, that you are glorifying this just disgusting immorality. And you come and say that, well, this civilization is going to, enlighten you even more because you're so enlightened already. It kind of like gives a stamp of approval on the way society has gone. And as Catholics, you got to be like, no, that is just straight up not the case. We are not an enlightened species at the moment. Go ahead.
So it reminds me of a Calvin and Hobbes skit where Calvin says that I think the greatest sign that intelligent life exists is that they haven't tried to contact us yet. It's like, if aliens were out there and they're these hyper advanced, super, immensely, light speed technology, societies, we would be ants, and we would not be worth. We would not be worth communication with. So I think that these UFOs and these sightings of aliens, if they do exist, predicates that these aliens are beyond light speed, because the nearest habitable or even supposedly habitable planet in a Goldilocks zone is something, 32 trillion light years away, or however long, I'm not entirely sure. But you need to be faster than light speed society to achieve that. And if there is a society, a race that has achieved that, they're gonna take one look at us and our TikTok and our our society and move right on, or destroy us without a second thought. There wouldn't be these these sightings and these they're trying to communicate with us and these things. I don't see this mix of, you have a paradox of an immensely powerful advanced culture that's just trying to make contact with us poor humans. I just don't see that.
Yeah,
it's hard to imagine.
I want to go real quick to Matt W's comment that he made. That I've heard this argument. It's a good one. So the real interesting question is this: could God have created intelligent life elsewhere? And if they likewise fell, could he have simply chosen to not redeem them? Did he have to? Are we back? Yeah, we're back. Basically saying that if there is intelligent life elsewhere, how does that fit in God's creation plan or redemption plan? And that one to me is almost just the kick of the bucket of that argument, that it, to my understanding, that does not fall into God's creation. That you had the redemption story. Did that play out in a different civilization? I don't think so.
And who was our Lord's mother? A big question. Does he have a different mother on a different planet? Yeah, I mean, that one does. Well, also, it kind of falls apart.
And also, I mean, the story of creation itself would be different. I mean, you couldn't, if the Bible doesn't say anywhere that on the seventh day God rested, and on the eighth day God made went over to this part of the universe and created this civilization. So I mean, otherwise, unless God just chose to not inform us about this other redemption story, but I don't really see that anywhere.
Well, it takes away from the specialness of humanity's creation, and we are made into the image and likeness of God. And as soon as you throw out the possibility of an advanced civilization living hundreds of thousands of light years away, it takes away that that specialness. It's like we are ants. We are smaller than ants. It's a great paradox.
Yeah.
But that just does not work in my mind with a greater civilization that does not fall under God's redemption plan.
I've got get the comment down. You guys are putting together so many comments here that I'm having trouble keeping up with them. But one of the things that I guess I would have really liked to research, and I've seen about this before. I think I got it from somebody at the church. Hang on, let me see if I can. Okay, we may have this. Oh wait, there they are. Okay.
Sorry, real quick, I gotta respond to Matt W's again. Sorry, Matt, I'm talking to you a lot right now. He said his point was that he could have chosen not to redeem any extraterrestrials that fell. That's the angels. So you could put that same argument and say extraterrestrials are fallen angels. I think that angels. And I think that ticks off and says that extraterrestrials are actually extraterrestrials, but they're fallen angels. So God, does it falls into the creation plan very well.
Yeah, one of the things I probably should have thought through to do a little bit of research on, I remember hearing this from somebody at church, that there was a scientist who went through and did a calculation on all the different variables and factors that it took just biologically and geologically to allow life. Okay, so basically you had to be, as a planet, you have to be a certain distance from a sun to have proper warmth to have life. You had to have a certain density of the air. You had to have a certain intensity of your gravity. You had to have certain elements in there. And by the time he was done, in terms of projecting just by random chance what the chances of a single planet having all of these different factors that we have here, it was 10 to some like 200th power or something like that. It was unbelievably long odds that the actual forces for life could be actually existent on another planet.
Yeah, that's what they call this whole Goldilocks zone, is that it has to be perfect to sustain life, and that Earth is like barely inside this zone, that we're like, I think we're just barely too cold or on the cold side. However, it's so astronomically small, it has to be so astronomically perfect, and that I think that with all the technology, with all the telescopes, and the space stations that we have not yet been able to discern a world that could sustain life. There have been, I think they've come across like 2 or 3 planets that they say might be in the Goldilocks zone, but is also probably aren't. And these are the closest things, and these are for hundreds of millions of light years away.
Yeah. So one of the things I hear out there a good amount is the idea of them, because of the distance, right? They can't just hop on a plane and go 200,000 light years away. I mean, it's so unfathomably far away, and they wouldn't even know. I mean, how would they know who, of all the different directions they could go? How would they know how to find us and all that? So what you even see popular science now calling them is interdimensional beings, which is interesting because it's like, okay, I can kind of buy off on that, because I mean, not that heaven and hell and earth are different dimensions, but I mean, you are talking about a spiritual dimension with the demons, especially that if they can take physical form, I mean, from a scientific standpoint or from an atheist standpoint, that is kind of interdimensional.
I mean, we do know that there are, at least 5 dimensions now. What are we up to? 6 dimensions? I'm not sure, but I know there are, 5 dimensions, and we live we are 3-dimensional. So, I mean, it's theoretically possible that, if these beings, demons, or whatever they are, exist in a dimension above us, then space-time might, I mean, their understanding and manipulation of space-time would be, very different from ours. That's the reminds me of Interstellar, the movie Interstellar, that talks about that a lot, of the 4th and 5th dimension. What is the 5th dimension being like love or something like that? But it goes through this and talks about why these like wormholes are theoretically possible. It's just we can't understand it. Like what's on the other side of a black hole? It's just we can't understand it with our finite knowledge. So I mean, our knowledge of aliens, while it might just be too simplistic, and that our science and our knowledge of it, our understanding of what it might be, just hasn't caught up with what it is. I mean, that's a theoretical.
So here's a little bit of a interesting prediction that goes back again to our last podcast we did, that there is a very, in my opinion, I think in 2026 at the World's Fair, you're going to see a lot of technology that gets thrown out to the public, and you might see stuff that is somewhat resembling interdimensional travel, or not necessarily like time travel, but anti-gravity stuff that to our understanding just doesn't make any sense to what we learned in science in high school. But you have to understand that all technology is so far ahead of what the public knows. I think there's a 20-year projected out that the elites usually have, so our government have, before any technology is released to the people. So you take the great gradient of how far we've gone in the last 5 years with just our understanding of, or not even understanding, just technology, smart cars and smart homes and crazy stuff that you wouldn't even imagine 10 years ago being possible. Well, you project that out 20 years and you got some crazy stuff. So I think our understanding of travel and space travel, assuming that you believe that space is real and that there's not a firmament, different podcast, but that you could start seeing stuff coming out that is more plays into the alien technology being accessible, whether it's true or not, or whether it's put to the aliens as having given it to us. That's a whole different question. But I think that you're going to actually see some technological breakthroughs that we haven't seen in 100 years.
Okay, so I got to put a question for you here, Dominic. Let's suppose over the coming days, we see a disclosure and basically have the aliens talking to us and giving us their background and telling us who they are and all that kind of stuff. Do you think it's a possibility, and is it just a stupid Hollywood trick, or is that too much speculation?
Hollywood trick. I think this plays into Project Bluebeam, that you have so much technology that's going to be coming out that what they're going to say is that the aliens are real and they're your overlords and they're the reason why Earth has life on it, because they put the DNA into the sludge into the creation of the world, and they're basically our gods. And here's the technology to prove that they gave that to us. So I think that's a legitimate argument that you could put out there, that the stuff that's going to be coming down the line is going to be 100% attributed to a nefarious source. Even if the technology is there, the technology is legit, that they're going to attribute it to something that is really, really bad for Christianity and for the general understanding of how the world works.
Right. So another question for you. What do you think about the California fires? Do you think that there was directed energy there? Or were they just natural? We know there's some arson involved. The high winds. One of the things I've been saying about the California fires is that having lived there, it's not a forest out there. It's not. Now there are some foresty areas, but for the most part, you got a lot of scrub brush. You got a lot of concrete. You've got homes, and I know I've seen some of these neighborhoods go up, and I've seen some of the videos, so I get it, where the wind's blowing 80, 100 miles an hour. There's a fire off in the distance, and all of a sudden you see what almost look like hand grenades, bombs coming down in people's yards, and it could be acorns, it could be parts of trees, it could be debris or whatever it is, and then their house burns. But to me, it seems the pictures that I'm seeing just don't seem consistent with just a standard forest fire. And I wonder if either of you guys, that's a rabbit hole worth going down.
No, I agree. There's enough that's totally crazy out there. And there's this one video. I don't know did you pull that video down of the satellite view of when these fires started?
Oh no,
they started at the same time. There's a satellite view of looking over LA, and you had 3 plumes of smoke just at the same exact time, just go poof. So whether it almost has to be, there's no way that there's coincidence that happened. But whether it's
there's
WEPs or
DEWs.
DEWs, thank you.
Yeah.
That I've seen pictures of blue trash cans not burnt up right next to houses that were completely demolished.
And a house that had just received the Epiphany blessing, with newly blessed doors being completely saved. I mean, there's I was looking at this with my mom, and she showed a picture of a house perfectly preserved by the fire, along with the small article, and then a YouTube video of a guy who knew these people, relating the story, saying he just blessed his house. It's like these broke out on what the 8th or right after the Epiphany. I mean, he just gotten the Epiphany blessing. They evacuated, but their house was totally unscathed, and all the houses surrounding it are gone. Donald
Trump coming in, you have globalists going out, and all of a sudden California's burning, and all of a sudden UFOs are all over the place in New Jersey and other places in the East Coast and around the world. I mean, all this stuff just it seems too coincidental to be. And there you go, Dominic. Dominic is live from Southern California.
It's bad over here, guys. You have no idea. But no, I totally saw somebody that said that the fires were not started by lasers. I could absolutely think that that's the case, but I think a arson or an outside force started these fires. It's almost undoubtable.
Well, yeah, you mean
goes back to there's a bit of conspiracy out there that the LAWDP, I think, or the power company out there inserted all of these smart meters, and there's lawsuits out there that are basically these smart meters blow up. They have lithium ion batteries, so a lot of people are saying that it was actually the meters that started the fires on the houses, basically just blew up a side of the house and then let the wind take the rest. And that's why you see a lot of pictures of houses burnt completely to the ground, but trees that were 5 feet away were not burnt at all.
Yeah. Well, here, okay, I'm sorry, I'm kind of changing subjects on it. We had a question up above. We're getting so many comments, which is great. I love it. Thanks for all the comments, everybody. It's hard for me to pull up the screen and to show them and then to knock them back down again. But I think it was from Crusader Film Wars asking about this being an opportunity to usher in the Antichrist or the other way around. And I think we have to be open to that. I mean, for me, I'm one who believes that we are in times that feel like the end times. It's kind of, you can call it a dress rehearsal. It's going to be times that rhyme with the end times, but maybe not the end times. However, I don't say that with certainty. I don't say that like I know what I'm talking about. And I think it's something that, I've even learned from the black pillars out there who you do have to be careful that Donald Trump could be the great deceiver. He could be the one that's kind of bringing this all about, but he's doing it in a way that's wonderful for us. Now, I don't feel that. I just don't feel like that's the case. But I think the most important thing is that we need to stay agile when it comes to looking at events and interpreting events. And if something comes out tomorrow or the next week or two, and it makes it pretty obvious that Donald Trump is in league with the Antichrist or whatever you want to, however that kind of turns out, that I've got the humility to say, yeah, you know what, I was wrong, and I'm going to eat my words and and move on and then do whatever I can with the understanding that Donald Trump is the Antichrist or is in league with them or whatever it is. And so it's a really good question. I tend to say no, but I don't know if you guys, Dominic or William, have any thoughts on that. Or am I? Okay.
Oh, well, on about Trump being the Antichrist or the Messiah, I think that this is just history going on as it always has, with the exception of the whole world has a front row seat to everything that's going on. I mean, many people, many subjects throughout history have thought that their leader was either a great, messianic figure or else the devil himself. And I think that this is, just the same. I think Trump is just a businessman turned politician who loves to serve himself, but by serving the American people, he serves himself the best. So I think Trump is definitely a narcissist. However, I believe he is also a true patriot who just wants to do what's best for the country, even though we might not agree. We and him might not agree with what is best for the country. I don't see any kind of indications that he's, either the Antichrist or a precursor to the Antichrist, or on the other side, a Messiah, or, a messianic figure. I think he's just, another, ruler throughout history who will go down as a great or infamous, a greatly infamous or infamously great ruler. However, he's not. It's just the difference between now and 500, 600, 700 years ago is that we all have a real time vision of what he's doing, and also very the court intrigues of the past, as it were, are now for all of us to be part of. So we get to experience and be part of all of these intrigues and conspiracies. So it's like the masses have become the Byzantine courts of old, as it were. But I don't see Trump as this a messianic or antichrist figure.
Well, I figure what would have happened if you had Twitter back in the time of Constantine? I mean, how many people would have hated him? I bet you there would have been some plots to overthrow from Oh,
he would have been canceled for sure.
Away. He would have been canceled for sure. I think you're totally right. I love that take. That first of all, I think he's too polarizing to really have an antichrist persona, and the JWs don't really love Trump all that much right now, and I think it's pretty well established in eschatology that the Antichrist will be the ruler of the Jews, and Trump doesn't fit that.
Ooh, and that's a topic that we haven't firmed up anything for the next couple of weeks, but I think there's a probably conversation coming up on Trumponomics, and it's pretty incredible when you get into Bitcoin and XRP and the Fed and internal, the revenue service and taxes and all these kind of things that I think that Trump is actually, if you look at his deeds, his words are different. He plays the game with the JOOSs. He plays the game, and he wears the yarmulke, and he does the Wailing Wall, and he meets with all of them, and he meets with Netanyahu and all that kind of. You have to. If you don't do that, you're not going to win elections, because they can just rig it against you. But I think when you look at his actions, I think that he's going after the very foundations of how that group suppresses us, and how they basically they enslave us, and I think that's getting ready to change. But that's going to probably be a conversation for another night.
Yeah, I think Trump as the Antichrist was not necessarily on the docket for tonight, but kind of on that same good quip. But my closing argument for that is that I cannot, in the wildest imaginings, believe that the Antichrist would publicly acknowledge and ask for Our Lady's help.
Right.
And that's just like, no. That's it.
And proclaim Jesus Christ as Lord. I have to believe that the Antichrist will not be able to. I don't know if he'll be able to say his name. I mean, because can he even say the name of Jesus Christ? The Antichrist, I'm not sure. And there's a lot of videos out there. I think we pulled them down for other purposes, but there's a number. He's got a number of them where he's given all the credit for everything he's done well to Christ, and talked about how we need to pray again as a country, and how. And you're right, Tommy. That's just not the way. That's not the behavior of the Antichrist. He will look at himself as being God.
And also, I mean, with the rumors, unfounded or somewhat unfounded rumors, but rumors nonetheless, that Barron Trump is not only a Catholic but a traditional Catholic, and I just don't see that jiving. I mean, even though that Trump has multiple marriages and is not a personally good guy, is not a personally good man. However, I don't see the Antichrist's son being a supposed traditional Catholic. Something about that just doesn't jive.
Yeah, I'd agree.
Yeah.
So going back to the world on fire and aliens,
yeah. More good good
so
topics.
Totally going back
topics.
to my background picture. Did all of you guys see Joe Biden's take or his little his thing about the blue roofs? Did you?
You know what, that one I think wouldn't it wouldn't download for me. Let me look. I don't think I was able to pull that one down.
It was a hot mic that Biden basically was commenting on the fires. And it's like, yeah, all the houses burned down, and then the ones with the blue roofs didn't burn, and we need to fix that.
Yeah.
It's like, whoa, what are you talking about? It's like that is dark. If he's actually talking about that as, okay, we need to fix it so it burns everything. I don't know if that's the case.
Well, you have this the mayor of LA, Karen Bass, talking. She gave I don't know if it was a press conference, but she gave a statement where she was talking about how sad she was and how devastating this was. But we're going to rebuild, and we're going to make this city so good, and everything's going to be so much better after we rebuild it. It's just like she looked almost happy, and it just seems gone all the way so like, okay,
bugs and you will like it.
Yeah. Yeah, seriously. It's like, yeah, she might have well just said, yeah, we burned down your city, or at least we let your city burn down, but we're going to rebuild it better.
Well, there is a video of Gavin Newsom standing in front of the fires.
I hear you.
Okay. Yeah. But there is a video of Gavin Newsom standing in front of a burning down house, doing this like kind of like, oh yeah, well, we're gonna rebuild for the future, and we're gonna it's gonna be a smart city of LA 2028.
I think we lost.
Goodness, that is he is basically happy about these fires.
I think we lost you. Hang on, let me see if I can go on. Do you hear me? I think I lost you dropped there, Dominic.
Did we? Okay.
Yeah, let me bring you back on. Okay, go ahead and say that again.
So basically, what I was saying, Gavin Newsom standing in front of a burning house, doing this like happy dance of, yeah, we're going to rebuild this smart city in 2028 and be ready for the Olympics, without any remorse. He's basically happy. Like I see it in his face. Like, yeah, I did this, and basically, and like, what's coming next? We're going to rebuild with $150 billion, whatever they're going to try to take from the federal government, our tax money. That they are negligent, so negligent in their fire prevention that they basically purposely caused this, and they're going to make the entire rest of the United States pay for it. So it's this crazy, just they're selfish as heck.
Oh, they're unbelievable, and I think that what Trump's onto them, right? I mean, they had this high-speed railway, and they passed a big bond, and then they passed a big bond for fire prevention. And they know what happens. I mean, California is the worst in the country, but Obama is really, really bad. I mean, it's all over the country, and Republicans too. But basically, they take and they pocket the money. Now, maybe not personally, but they give it to all their friends, and they, they maybe go and do a project or two. But the Kamala Harris was replete with these kind of things. They had the big internet. It was the cars. They had they were supposed to do filling stations for electric cars, and they spent like $70 million, and they built like 7 stations. And I think the reason for that is because it's all grift. They keep the money. So Donald Trump knows if they take federal emergency funds and give them to Gavin Newsom, he'll pocket it. They know that. There's no question about it. And so I think Trump's going to make sure that if there's money sent to California, it's given to the people individually through programs and not to the government.
Yeah,
and this with conditions. This is, you're taking money from people in North Carolina that are still living in tents,
right?
And you are giving it to the rich elite in the LA area. You have to give that money with conditions and be like, okay, you guys are going to rebuild, and you're going to get rid of all your crazy environmental crap. You're going to bring the water back up down from the north that you're just routing out to the ocean, which is wild. and with conditions, you will get this money. But without it, it's like you're just, like you said, you're giving it into the pockets of the grifters.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's another thing. They caught with their hands in the cookie jar, trying to donate through the so Gavin Newsom and also who was, I think, Elizabeth Warren, both posted these, help us, donate to charity, donate to these sites through Act Blue. The Democratic Party takes 4% of all transactions. So by donating to help rebuild and save the fires in California, you are actually giving 4% of everything you give to the Democratic Party through Act Blue. And so they got torched on X or Twitter. Sorry, they got torched on Twitter about this, and they just got run through the fire, as it were, about how they were just straight up trying to pickpocket people trying to donate to help, rebuild and stop these fires. It's just absolutely despicable.
Sorry, I'm mute. Money is such a huge part of this, and to kind of bring it back to the aliens again, that you can be sure that like a lot of NASA is probably another one. Who knows exactly where all that NASA money goes and what they're actually doing? But a lot of our foreign aid, Ukraine and Israel, probably, and a lot of these other countries, what we do is we find corrupt leaders. We give them lots of money. They don't do anything for their people. And they just filter it back to our liberal politicians. And that's how you remember Nancy or Kamala Harris. She's given the nomination by the Democrats. And then the next morning she says, yeah, I made a few phone calls and I made $500 million overnight. Say, yeah, sure you did. That was Ukraine money coming back in the form of Act Blue donations that were all illegal and, into the pockets of the Democrats. But anyways, it's a crazy system. And there's so much rot. And it all feels like, especially with Donald Trump coming in 4 days on Monday, it's all coming to a head. And I think that's kind of where I am with things is I honestly, and I'll have to tell you the truth on this, that I expected when the election happened and Donald Trump won, that the period from November, 4th to January 20th was going to be some of the most raucous, awful times in American history, and false flags and all that kind of stuff. And it's actually been relatively tame. But
really all you've gotten are aliens and fires. And that's pretty much the only distraction of the people. That I think you had a lot of the Hamas and Israel stuff kind of hittering, doing their thing. But the general craze has just been UFOs, and then all of a sudden the fire started, and then you didn't hear anything about the UFOs.
I think that part of that might be because what if the Democrats had no backup plan? Were they so convinced that did they buy into their own hype so much that they really thought that Kamala Harris was going to win the election, and that they had to scramble? And we've seen that they've eaten each other. They've been eating each other. Left is turning on left. You're seeing it in a lot of different spaces. There's still some people still can't even believe that Trump actually won. So I think we gave the deep state a bit too much credit for how lockstep they are. That after all, these puppets are just puppets, who will be discarded at will, but they don't want to be discarded because they want the power, and so your cohesion breaks down. And so you suddenly have, I don't think it's, mastermind says everyone do this and everyone does it. Everyone's trying to, they're working together for evil to a certain extent. But I think that, I think we generally give the cabal, the deep state cabal, too much credit for how 4D they're playing.
I love the theory that the devil was basically given control for 100 years, starting in, say, 1912. So basically World War I after Fatima. And that time of his direct intervention and power over politics and power over the people essentially ended in 2000 and about 12 to 2016. And what came after that was just the absolute derelict evil people of the world having no guiding compass to, masterfully place them where they need to be and do what they need to do. And they just fell apart. Like you said, left is eating the left, and the world has just kind of opened their eyes to how sadistic these people are, and the just general understanding that there is a bad, deep, and you call it deep state, call it occult, something that has ruled the world for a good amount of time, or at least been very influential in the world. And we are kind of coming out of that cocoon. At least that's what it feels like. That you just have a lot of people. You could go to Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan was. I still can't really vouch for him. He's got a mouth like a sailor, but you are seeing him come to Christianity in real time. And it's really fascinating to watch. I watch a decent amount of his interviews, and there are so many of them that are just like, okay, he's one step closer. And then he has a conversation with Mel Gibson. It's like, wow, he's coming pretty close. And I think that you have a generation of people that are going to start coming to the truth. And if they take that one step further, they'll come to the faith.
Well, let me throw a kind of a crazy. I mean, to kind of sum up what you guys are saying, throw kind of a crazy idea out there. Suppose, okay, we've got the predictions that this is, the deception's coming in the next 72 hours or whatever it is, or before the 20th or whatever. And suppose that we get to the point where we have this disclosure. We find a flying saucer, or we found an egg, or we found a alien or whatever, and there's a big press conference, and we see the big press conference, and we all say that was dumb, and we had 100 years of buildup for this, and then we get to Trump's inauguration, and it's like the whole alien thing just goes away because it played itself out and was stupid and had no impact. And I mean, as I'm talking this whole thing through, I'm almost thinking, well, maybe that's the way this is going to play itself out.
Yeah, and having the inauguration just become a total nothing burger. That you're. I guess my whole anticipation of this last year has been like, okay, we're going to build up to something. We're going to have crazy. We're going to have something even crazier and crazier and crazier. And then the alien or the UFOs or UAPs started coming out. It's like, oh, this is building to something. This is going to be crazy. And then it could totally just happen that Trump gets inaugurated and he puts into law a bunch of executive orders and things just marginally get better, and that's pretty much the gist of it. And nothing actually fundamentally changes like immediately, but you just have a gradual, at least as the American economy in Americana just slowly starts coming out of the deep dive it's been in, but nothing drastic.
And that's part of my thought where, it's the whole world has become sensationalized. Everything is a sensation. Everything is a scandal or the next hot topic. But, I think in the end, it's just the cycle of history repeating itself, but with everyone having a front row seat. Everyone's writing the history books as the history is being written. And so, this, Trump, I love the Byzantine Empire. I love it to death. But I love trying to compare different historical events to, that specific regime because it lasted for 1,400 years and went through just about every kind of political intrigue you could get. And I think this is just the ushering in of a new dynasty that is less corrupt than the old one and that has the actual interests of the people in mind. I think that because of just the nature of the informational age we live in, people put more meaning behind things than they actually are. I think, we're trying to, divine the intentions and the reasonings and the bigger picture, when really I just don't know that, I don't know that there is a bigger picture to everything that, the current president does and that the incoming president will do and has done in his first term. I think that Trump is, compared to Biden, he's gold compared to a turd, truly. But that doesn't make him the greatest. That doesn't make him the greatest president ever, and it also doesn't make him some kind of maniacal evil genius. I think it's the cycle of history just going on as it always has, but with everyone having a front row seat.
So in that case,
go ahead.
So in that case, where does that put us in the Roman Empire? Are we about to hit Nero with fires behind us, or are we going to Constantine, the start of the new Roman Empire?
I think where do I say? If we're going Roman, I don't know. I'd go with Eastern Roman. You have the Comnenus dynasty that started the Crusades, that ushered in the Renaissance, the Golden Age, of the second Golden Age of Rome, of Eastern Rome, of Byzantium. But before him was you had a corrupt, incestuous, just incredibly despicable regime. I believe was it Nicephorus Phocas, but I'm not entirely sure, just off the top of my head. But you had just the ushering out of an old regime. He was actually, I think, he was lynched, killed by his own people. Although I might be mixing this up with another story slightly, but I mean, the thing about the historical cycle isn't the events themselves; it's the lessons taken from it. Is that I believe what we're going through now isn't a great entire renewal of America, and it's not the fall. I think it's just it's a bump up. It's a goal. It's a resurgence, a renaissance of the American dream, of the American people. That's the way I want to see it. That's the way that I want to see it as an optimist.
See, that is totally your white hat right there. That's the white hat.
I will die on the white hat hill.
Well, and I said a long time ago that I would rather be an optimist and wrong than a pessimist right. And I think you just live better if you are fundamentally optimistic about things. But communists, I think, made a good point here, and a couple nice comments in the comment section about. Let me put it up there again. And this is very true. Satan's army does not go away and the world converts. That's not how the story goes. Be prepared for total chaos and lies everywhere. We do absolutely have to be prepared for chaos. And I think you're right. There is. I mean, you can get in a Trump 40 chest that says that he won this war 3 or 4 years ago, and now we're just seeing the ending scenes of the movie. That's a little bit hard to expect or to buy into, and you're right. We do have to expect chaos here, I think. But at the same time, I know for me, I grew up on Hollywood. I grew up on the movies, and every movie, you had to have a good guy and a bad guy. And you had to have a part where the bad guy was going to win, and then you had to have a violent, something. And you had to have a heroic ending, and they follow the same plot. And I think we tend to look for real life to do the same thing just because we're so accustomed to it in our movies. And I think to William's point, it doesn't have to be that way. It might just be kind of boring. And maybe Satan has decided that he's walking off the playing field for now, and he's going to come back later. I don't really know. But I think that, to Communist's point, we do need to be prepared for everything. That would be stupid for us to say, oh yeah, nothing's going to happen. We're just going to sit back and drink coffee on the 20th and everything's going to be great.
Yeah, and I think that even the 20th being a definite big point, a a a watershed moment. I don't remember the however you say it. But I think that, as I don't remember who said this. This might have been someone like Tim Pool. But Trump getting in doesn't mean the battle's won. Trump getting in means now we can start fighting the battle. Is now we can actually start trying to make real change. Now we can start trying to actually fix what is happening in the world. Try to slowly, get rid of the gender ideology, get rid of it, completely expunge it. We're seeing those wheels starting to turn. And now that Trump is in, or very soon going to be in, I think now we have the chance to actually start trying to turn those wheels, get them cranking faster, get the momentum back on our side, get off the back foot.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's so, I mean, just almost every day. I remember I go back to now, there's a great clip of Donald Trump. I think it was actually 2016, one of his rallies, and saying, you're going to get so sick of winning, you're going to come to me and say it's too much. I can't handle all the winning. And, but we are to the point today where I think almost every day we see something new. Red dye number 3, which is a terrible poison in our food system, has been banned. And now, granted, I think food companies have 2 years in order to get it completely removed out of their foods, but we're moving in the right direction. And I think that, with so many different things going on here, we're going to see good news out of Pam Bondi and out of Pete Hegseth. And I mean, it's almost like every single day, especially once we get going here, if we make it to Monday and things don't get too violent, then I think we are going to be seeing good news every day.
If we make it to Monday.
We make it to Monday, yeah. There's still hope for your black pillars yet.
Yep. So yeah, I think that if things actually, so my kind of prediction from last week was, you could very well see either one or the other side blow the other one up on Sunday, Monday. Obviously, don't hope that happens. But there's just enough tension, and you have the dying of a very powerful regime, and they're not going to go out with a whimper.
Yeah.
Unless you subscribe to the thought process that Trump has already won this battle, 10 years ago.
I don't subscribe. I don't subscribe to it. Dominic, really, I mean, I know it's out there. I think one of the great conversations we'll have to have on this show is Q, because I mean that's going back because that's all fascinating stuff. But if you get it kind of into that Q mindset, it says that Trump won this war, and we're watching a movie, and Biden wasn't the real Joe Biden, and basically now we're just almost ready to watch the rolling the ending credits of things. And I don't buy into it. However, if we get through the next couple of weeks and there is nothing major in terms of terrorist attacks, alien disclosures, whatever it is, I'm gonna start to wonder, because I'm with what Communist said earlier, that they're not going to just leave the battlefield and say, yeah, you guys won, we're done. They're going to keep fighting, but maybe there's no fight left in them. It's going to be fascinating to see.
Yeah, maybe the bad guys just regroup. I mean, what if we're watching a tactical withdrawal, as it were? I personally think that we're watching the enemy retreat in utter confusion, and killing and routing their own troops as they flee. However, that means that this battle might be over, but the war continues. I mean, we know that as long as Satan and the corruption of man has existed, there have been more than enough enemies to replace the ones that we might have currently triumphed over. I mean, we know that it's as long as humankind exists and Satan exists, the fight will continue. Just maybe under a new guise and under new figureheads. I mean, I certainly don't think that we're going to see Gavin Newsom, coming in 2028 as the big boss, but someone will. the someone, the fight will continue, and it will be a hard fought fight. I just think that we've won a battle, and we've won a big battle, but now we have to press the advantage.
Yeah, I want to throw a little disclaimer out there too, that the whole QAnon stuff, while I firmly believe that there are elements of truth to it, that the entire movement does have a ton of disinformation.
Oh, no,
just absolutely riddled with it. But you're starting to see a lot of stuff about the elites and the child stuff it's disgusting. And there's not a whole huge leap of assumption that some of the other stuff might be true. And you have people like Braveheart guy. You were just talking about him earlier. Mel Gibson. Mel Gibson coming out publicly and say, yeah, they drink the blood of children over there. And it's like the guy might have been a little bit off his rocker when he said it. You don't know. But there's enough information that's like, there's definite elements of truth.
Yeah, if it was just Mel Gibson, then I'd say, yeah, maybe he's just being wacky or whatever. But I mean, it's not just him. There are plenty of other voices. There's plenty of corroboration on this. I think that but you got a superstructure that goes all the way up to the top of the political chain that has protected it. Now, if Trump comes in, I can't imagine how Trump can come in and protect it when he's bringing out, Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard and Pam Bondi and Kash Patel and all these people who have specifically talked against, and kind of putting out there that what these elites do. That I can't imagine that Trump's going to just let that go. I think honestly, right now, I think he's being quiet about the whole thing because he's ready to lay the lumber.
Yeah, I think you could absolutely be seeing the death of a 2,000-year-old monster, like something, the evil that's been around for generations and generations. You got the Freemasons and all the shady dealings with those types of people, that there is a possibility that we might see the uncovering of these things and actual justice brought on them. And that's best case scenario. And assuming that these allegations are true, which I think some of them are, but the overreaching, the deep state cabal, and you said those words 4 years ago, and people would just laugh at you. And right now, it's become mainstream. It's like people understand. They hear that, it's like, yeah, that's not conspiracy. The news talk about it. It's a mainstream idea, and I think that bringing into the consciousness of the general public is something that Trump has done so well with, that the disinformation, or not disinformation, but just bringing to light the corruption of our media, of the elites, that if you have any sort of justice brought on these people, it will not be out of the blue. It'll be like, the whole populace is going to be like, oh yeah, we hate these people. They're evil. They shouldn't be part of our society.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. There's sorry.
Go ahead, Wayne.
Okay. I was just gonna say that. I mean, the question is, how deep is the corruption? And this whole Epstein and Diddy, these things, while potentially major wins, I think would just be cutting off one head of the Hydra. As you're gonna still have these. I mean, this is just the taking down of the front office of the some of the faces of the deep state corruption, of the the legacy evil and diabolical wickedness that has plagued society for hundreds of years. I think we're gonna see, at least I believe we're gonna see a tactical withdrawal and a temporary retreat from the field of battle, and then the bad guys are going to regroup, find a new plan of attack, and continue from there. I mean, and also, we do know that, I mean, we've been hitting up on a lot of the, we've been talking about a lot of the political side of this fight. However, there's so many other aspects that, I mean, the world is still in an incredibly bad place. I mean, just the fact that we're able to fight against transgenderism, means that this thing happened in the first place. How low does a society have to fall for something like transgenderism to occur as a thought process? And you only see that before the fall of civilization. Right. The Greeks went gay and they failed. The Romans got intensely corrupt and incestuous, and just they as soon as societies begin tampering with man's nature with man and God's very carefully balanced construct, everything it breaks, it falls apart, they become weak, they become a effeminate society, and then they get taken over by someone who's stronger.
Right. Well, and here's one of the questions that I ask a lot. I think Dominic and I have had this discussion a number of times about are we at that point of full collapse, pending, imminent, or are we in the state of collapse and we're maybe coming out of it? And because I think to a large degree that we have caught ourselves. We have there's still a tremendous, not a lot of traditional Catholics, obviously, not a lot of people with the grace of the true sacraments, but there are a lot of people who address God as Jesus Christ and are at least nominally Christian and have an active living faith in this country. And there are a lot of people that want to do good. And, there are a lot of good things out there. So, I see all the time, I see reason to believe that we are turning in the right direction. I also see reason to believe that we are very much worthy of punishment and chastisement. So, I mean, I really kind of see both.
Well, my take on this has been for a long time that before any society ever turns itself around, it has to feel the pain. You have to have some sort of just physical moment of absolute desperate pain before, as a society, you turn back to God. And I think we may have felt this on the moral level of our society, that we have gotten debauched as a country, but we're still eating healthy. Well, I mean, we have food in our fridges and we have electricity and central heating. And I think that before you can earn as a society a return to God, you have to put people on their knees. And I'm not sure if we've necessarily hit that yet. That's my little bit my black pill.
Well, we've explained to our children that way that you got unruly children, you got children who are just misbehaving. You got to spank them. You got to get their attention. And I think you're right that, I mean, we've lived through some of the greatest sufferings in the history of mankind. We've got no church. We've got no pope. I mean, for the first time in history, we've got an ordinary jurisdiction that is completely gone. We've got more toxins in the air and in the water and the food than ever before. We're fatter as a and we're unhealthier than we've almost ever been. So, I mean, we've suffered greatly. But I think you're right, Dominic, that we have not had that good spanking that a child needs in order to really kind of get their act together.
Kind of the other perspective on that might be that you have God's greatest punishment that he can give to his people is the loss of grace and the loss of the church, loss of sanctifying grace, and that could be our lowest point, that as a society you have so many people that are going to hell because of their wickedness, that is actually God's punishment to us, and that the physical side, if we had the physical side, our moral side would be, we wouldn't be as debauched. So I think that kind of goes back to Saint Teresa's depiction of the end times, or when our Lady, I think it was our Lord, our Lord showed Saint Teresa a picture of the greatest the saints of the latter times. Like, these people are weak. These people are not your bastions of faith, but because of the literal toxins and the microplastics in your brain and the 5G frying your brain, that it is actually harder to live as a Catholic in the end times. Whether these are the end times or not,
Well,
don't know. But
the world, and the world, the flesh, and the devil has never had so much power over humanity as they do now. I mean, look at the phones, look at technology. It has never been so easy. It has never been so easy to commit sin. It's never been so easy to lose your soul, from any number of ways. I mean, because of how close and connected we are with the world. The world and all of its temptations are within are imminently close to us. So I think it's never been such a case as it is now, that the mere act of saving your soul could be seen as a heroic act of virtue, just because of how many temptations there are, and how seemingly triumphant the world and the devil are in society today.
Yeah, did you want to go on that, Tom? Yeah, no, that's
pretty spot on. Yeah,
that's spot on, and so we're almost up on 2 hours here, and I think we had tried to stay in 2 hours. I tried to keep us on aliens, and we kept straying, but honestly, I think that it's just a good opportunity for us to all get together and chat. The chat has been spectacular, guys. I really appreciate it. I think we're going to have to divvy out. I had some problems, especially early on, with the with the graphics and the videos and stuff like that, and doing that, and the chat. I have to see if maybe we can split up that workload or something. But any last questions that we want to? Any final thoughts? Any predictions on where the next 4 days goes?
I want to throw this to everybody, but starting with William. Okay, are aliens real? And if they are real, what are they? And do we figure out in the next 10 days?
I would say 0% chance that extraterrestrial beings exist that we call aliens. I'd say about a 90% chance that there are devils posing as UFOs to distract mankind, and I think it's about a 120% chance that the government is using spyware, drones, you name it, whatever technology they have that we think they do or don't have, but they actually do, that is just causing these things, and then trying to pave the way for a UFO, paving the way for a false flag, as it were. That's my opinion.
Yeah, and I would say, and I put myself up there. I would definitely agree with that, and I'm there on the 0% chance that they are actual beings from other planets. I just don't think that it's too fluky, even that we exist, then much less that existed. And I remember a comment from a famous atheist who was talking about the cosmos and alien life, and basically saying, how arrogant is it to believe that all of those stars are out there, billions of stars, and it's just us. And my thought was, actually, it's pretty humble to think that God put all of this out there, all these stars, billions and billions of stars that are furniture for our edification and our wonder. I don't think that's arrogant at all. So I think that it's 0% chance. I tend to think that a disclosure is coming, and it's going to be compelling. It's going to be probably Hollywood, maybe some demons, but I think it's more likely Hollywood. And it's gonna. I think it's going to be compelling enough to convince some folks. I'm just hoping nobody here is convinced by them. Dominic, okay, let's hear. Oh,
right,
here we go.
Let's see if I lose. Last time I did this, I lost all my connections. So, oh yeah, by the way, so on the UFO thing, have to confirm this with the wife, but a couple nights ago, right after that last podcast that we had, we are like 95% sure that we had a big drone fly over our house. and hover for a second and then leave. So according to her, and she's not one to exaggerate, she's a very no nonsense, but she heard what sounded like a car revving its engine really loud in the driveway and then being gone. So not saying, just saying, I think our voices are out there enough that the aliens are coming to get us. So my whole prediction is going to be that you're going to have a disclosure within the next couple days, and the disclosure is going to say that there are aliens. Aliens are among us, and that we don't know what their intentions are. And then they're going to have a close encounters of the third kind, like this sort of event that happens, and we have first official contact, and you're going to have all the news stations crowding around, and then you're going to have some crazy looking animal person come out that's a human hybrid that has been grown in a test tube. This is tinfoil hat in here, and they're going to pass that off as being aliens. So your alien grays that they talk about, the little guys, the big eyes that have a whole bunch of people, have seen these things in your Area 51 type scenarios, that those are actually genetically modified humans. That's my tinfoil hat for the day, and don't take any of that seriously. That maybe a couple tablespoons of salt.
We're keeping receipts, and the nice thing is that we can bring. Everybody's going to forget you said that if nothing happens, but if you're right, we'll play it in a future episode and give you a gold star. So that'll be good if any of these predictions come through. So hey everybody, I appreciate you listening. I gotta say that the hit of the night was Dominic and the green screen. That worked really, really well. We kind of put that up last night. Obviously the echoing is a problem we're going to have to take on and figure out. We get these nice professional microphones, and maybe we'll find other ways to do green screens and everybody be on a green screen. But it's been a lot of fun. I really appreciate the comments, and you guys are great. And
a lot of feedback from the comments. That's been really awesome to have you guys kind of going along with us and adding content.
Yeah.
It's fantastic for going along. That's not just a live show. That's not just the three of us out there, but you guys are actually joining in, and we're riffing off of what you're saying. It does honestly help us if you do comment.
Help us to guide the conversation.
Yep. Yeah, I really appreciate you guys.
I had an outline for tonight, and we blew through it in about 45 minutes, and so yeah, and you guys have kind of helped us to have a good 2 hours worth of material. So, all right, until next time, guys. God bless, and we will see you next week.
Like, share, subscribe, and we are not on Catholic Family Podcast next week.
We are no longer on Catholic Family Podcast. We will at some point be on Patreon, but we're not going to ask for money.
Stay holy, stay safe, don't get abducted.
That's right. Don't get abducted. Right.
Yep.
God bless
Pray
everyone.
the rosary that the aliens don't abduct you.
That's right.